Alright everybody, and welcome back to the Streets of Rage trilogy. So we're finally getting back to this, since the fourth game came out recently. So yeah, 1 year after the battle...
Well, let me just stared at Mr. X's corpse.
The city that had been plagued with crime and violence was safe and peaceful. But of course that would not last. However, evil has once again cast its shadow over the city.
I wonder who it could be.
Mr. X, the Syndicate boss believed destroyed by the three young vigilants, has come back to life stronger than ever. Firstly for revenge, he kidnaps Adam in an attempt to lure Axel and Blaze into a trap. Axel and Blaze set out to help their faithful companion, joined by Axel's friend Max, a wrestler, and Adam's kid brother, Skate. They're determined to save Adam and put Mr. X out of action. Four young friends, rage burning inside them, make a stand for friendship and peace.
So, Pedro, are you going to be showing off all the playable characters?
All of them except for Skate. I didn't get around to picking Skate. Forgot this.
So it's it's kind of like Donkey Kong Country 2. One of the main characters gets kidnapped and the younger brother needs to save him.
I mean, imagine if we started removing Skate from other things. Like it'd be Tony Hawk's Pro, and that's it.
Also, it's a Skit, just S-K-I-T.
Alright.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, actually, no, you're correct. It's pronounced like that. Fuck.
Actually, his original name in the Japanese version is Sammy, but for some reason, Sega of America decided to change it to Skate.
Because
Sammy's boring. Skate's more cool.
Isn't Sammy a name attached to Sega in some kind?
Not at this time. Not at this time.
Well, Sega Sammy.
Well, no, but that was before.
I thought the opening narration said
there we go.
I thought the opening narration said that Skate was Adam's daughter.
If you're a fan of Street Rage, you will instantly recognize this music because it's the most iconic of the franchise. Go straight. Because basically this is the point where Yuzo Koshiro peaks.
Well, no, the Sega Sammy only bought Sega after the Dreamcast died, and Sega became and it was because of that Sega became a third-party company. So no, at the time Sega Sammy didn't exist; it was just Sega.
Of course.
And now they own Atlas.
All right.
Well, not necessarily now. It's been a couple of years.
So yeah, Streets of Rage 2 is like the first one is a scrolling beat 'em up, and it takes and it refines the formula further, even taking some cues from its competitor Final Fight, and expands upon its moves, and at the same time dealing with some refining aspects of the original, like making the sprites bigger and more defined.
Yeah, you can tell the improvement in quality.
Oh, for those of you wondering, not to worry, Skate fans, he's apparently back in Streets of Rage 4.
And Adam as well.
The thing is, even nowadays, I'm pretty sure quite a few people still wouldn't really associate Atlas with Sega even after the announcement.
Well, that's because Sega had the decency to actually keep the brand mostly separate, outside of from some minor crossover promotions here and there.
Some veterans.
It's like how we're a year since the Disney buyout of Fox, and people still think, wait, Disney own the Simpsons now?
Like you're not gonna see Sonic being a demon in a Megaten game being recruitable or something.
But
that'd be awesome. But...
My signal. All right.
Well, actually, that is a possibility. But you will see Joker's costume in Sonic the Hedgehog games.
True. Some of you veterans of the American release of Streets of Rage 2 might be confused by the names of the NPCs there. That's because I'm actually playing a ROM hack version of Streets of Rage 2 that called Streets of Rage 2 Restored. Basically, everybody, starting with the second game. Unfortunately, Sega of America started censoring Streets of Rage games. Granted, the censorship in this game was not as bad as in the next game, but it was still minimal. Like names were changed.
I don't understand why, to be honest.
Some minor, some minor little suggestive stuff in the background was changed. Because not to piss off soccer moms, I guess. So how?
Although,
So
why would soccer moms let their kids buy this game anyway?
well,
You'll be surprised.
well,
with
Oh, wait, hold on. It depends on what the rating for the game was.
I actually don't think the rating system existed at the time.
Also, Jova, that hasn't stopped people before and will not stop it now.
This game came out.
I know. But if it was rated something that's for kids, then
No,
I
but
guess
Pedro is right. I don't think the ESRB was
No,
established at this point.
it was Mortal Kombat that created the SRB. Together,
And Night Trap.
Yeah, and Night Trap.
Technically speaking, at the time of the Sega CD, technically.
No, and this game came out like in 1991 or 92. Like, but it was not at the correct time. The SRB was still not being enforced at the time. Clearly, even if it was already being considered at this point.
And even so, Joe, I argue that these games are far from being like quote unquote suggestive in a kind of way.
I guess it depends on what got cut out here.
Then again, Capcom
One of
made
them-
Sorry, go on.
I can actually explain that. One of them is Blaze's outfit, for example, because Blaze's outfit covers more of her skin in the American version.
Yeah,
Oh.
noticed that too. That's also they give her a jacket basically too. That's why in, for example, Sega Heroes, she has that kind of outfit. But head is the game is dead at this point.
Yeah.
So,
But no, go on, Waves.
okay, I've always been a bit curious. Is the theme song of Sega Heroes a remix of Sonic Heroes?
No, but but that's the thing. That's the thing, Waves. The name doesn't have to do anything with that. It was just branding and anything. But the thing is that it didn't have any particular original scores. Instead, it utilized a couple of tracks from the existing APs that it used, mainly Sonic, Super Monkey Ball, I think, oh god, I think, whatever, a couple of initial APs that he had, in the initial roster. Unfortunately, that was one of the problems that the game constantly had, that he didn't use that much more music.
One thing
It's
that
a bit of a shame. Sorry, go on.
First boss, kind of. This guy who rips his shirt by flexing his pecs.
Carbon. We already had one before with Jack, at least in some form capacity.
Yeah.
But no. Yeah.
It's one thing you'll notice is that the car feature was removed from the first game. So instead of being able to summon a car to kill all the enemies on screen, instead they replaced it with a super move that can take a bit of your life, as most scrolling beat 'em ups did, basically.
Final Fight also had that. But this also gives that opportunity to have the characters have very iconic moves.
Like Axel having that fist. There you go.
There you go.
Burning Fist.
Burning fist.
It's called the Dragon Smash or Dragon Ring. I forgot one of the two.
Oh, in other versions, it's called Burning Fist.
Yeah, well, keep in mind that it may be the Japanese name instead. One of them, probably mine, it will be the Japanese name instead, because the series, I forgot if you mentioned in the previous game, but the series in Japan is called Bare Knuckle, not even Streets of Rage.
Bare Knuckle.
So a lot of the terminology is changed.
It's different. Well, I don't remember if there's a specific name for Axel's signature attack in this game, but in the third game there is. If you're playing the Japanese version, he says Grasshopper, because Japan,
English.
However, if you're playing the American version of Streets of Rage 3, he says Bare Knuckle.
In order to be cute.
Well, I guess that name makes more sense.
However, I prefer playing the game the way the developers intended.
In due time, because like Pedro mentioned a bit before, Streets of Rage 3 was the one that was hit the most. The changes.
The story was butchered beyond belief, and some stuff was removed. Sections were flat out removed.
Honestly, knowing kind of all of this doesn't make me surprised more, anymore. The fact that Sega constantly screwed over the attempts of making a proper Streets of Rage 4 until very recently, because the franchise is probably one of the most plagued that Sega had. There's a bit everywhere of the story of studio wants to revitalize, this particular franchise from Sega, but for one thing or another, development gets scrapped and potentially the studio closes entirely. Green, if I recall correctly, was supposed to make a Streets of Rage either a reboot or proper sequel, but then it never happened because Green eventually, went bankrupt for its bad games. Someone else, I think, tried to do a Streets of Rage 4, but then went nowhere because I think Sega didn't like the pitch. And only recently we got finally a proper canonical Streets of Rage 4 made by the team who did the
Wonder Boy remake.
The Wonder Boy remake.
.mu, yeah. They also made Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. It's fortunately Streets of Rage 4 as far as I can tell, fortunately didn't have any kind of censorship issues.
At least thankfully, like this franchise is having a more happy ending, at least not in story, I mean out of universe for us the players, thanks to the release of 4 now has some new life into it. But unfortunately, a lot of other Sega franchises are still having a similar fate, if not worse.
Fortunately, there's always romhacking.net.
Yeah. Well, even so, Sega, Streets of Rage is one of those franchises that Sega has been happy to re-release in almost every compilation they had. At least 1 and 2. I don't think 3 has been re-released that much.
Speaking of Sega, actually, recently, in fact, I think it was just today, the guys at romhacking.net released a ROM hack called Final Fantasy Star 4 Relocalized, where basically they delivered the game much more professional localization and restored the censored content as well.
4 is the one that I actually played the least because the thing is that back when I used to play a lot on the PSP, there was one on the Sega collection that I tried. That included Fantasy Star 2, 3, and 4. 2 I pretty much 100%ed it, and 3 I completed most of it, but 4 was the one that I just started playing, and that was the point where unfortunately I had to drop my PSP for different kind of reasons.
These guys are called Burger. or Surger, rather. Sorry, Surger.
I still don't understand. I know that was like a difference in console because the first was released on the Sega Master System, but I still don't understand why Sega always is adamant in packaging the Phantasy Star compilations, from the first game, instead always starting from 2 onwards.
So yeah, this is a new boss called Jet.
Because he has a jetpack, get it?
Not to be confused with Jet the Hawk.
Yeah, of course, because yeah, that's the thing. I wonder if actually no, I highly doubt that calling an annoying bird after a Streets of Rage villain was
this boss, as you can see, is incredibly annoying because he'll fly over you and just grab you and do a really strong slam like that.
Gotta love how you can perform moves on your teammates in this game.
You could also do it in the in the original.
It's also to help the mobility, Jova, because as you can see, it doesn't damage properly.
Stage 2 clear.
Unfortunately, we're not tired of him because they're going to recycle Jet a lot of times throughout this game.
Oh, well.
Boy. Oh yeah, but one of my favourite tropes where they recycle the same enemy over and over.
If it helps you, Dwibs, the Ultimate Warrior is back in this game.
What?
Don't you remember one of the bosses of the first game was inspired by the Ultimate Warrior?
Oh yeah. I know. It's just this is also a bit taken aback.
Why was the Brazilian flag on a trash can?
Because we're in Brazil.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Well,
this is the city, Dweebs.
Well, how do you know it's not a Brazilian city?
Maybe.
It's Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, great! The people are playing the arcade version of the first game.
There's actually no.
We're beating them up for it.
That's the thing too. Like, unlike Golden Axe, Streets of Rage was made for the Mega Drive first, and it was only after that ported to Sega's Mega Play arcade. So,
How dare you play our game?
So it's not one of those cases where, so much like the Mega Play versions of Sonic 1 and 2, there's not really much point in going back to the arcade, trying out the arcade versions, because they're literally just the same game with a coin limit plastered on it, really.
Unless you live in Japan, seriously, they love their arcade games down there.
True.
Well, it seems to a point, speaking also to Sega, because it's likely attached to it, because I saw the news also today that...
Sega's cloud gaming for arcades thingy.
No, actually it's something else. There was, as soon as it loads up, we'll give the proper title. There was this arcade game that back in the day was supposed to be released on one of the Sega arcade cabinets, but then was cancelled, and now it's getting revived and to be released on PS4 and Switch. Thanks to another company, I think it's called Strictly Limited Games. This game was called like Clockwork Aquario or something like that. Let me check specifically.
Suzaku and Martin. And I love how the developers put both Japanese names and American names. Like there's a big mix of both, apparently.
A true uniting of worlds.
There we go.
Because remember, the names that were the names of the enemies in like Garcia, for example, in the American version, they renamed it to Garcia because apparently the R is taboo in America. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe we got confused because there's like this sort of non-written rule that
Shinobi, what are you doing here?
You go back to your game, Joe. No, it was like this sort of unwritten rule where words with R, with contains letter, L or R, in Japan, has to be like switched because the meaning could be, the opposite of what is written. The problem is that a lot of time it's not like that, and it creates bad translations.
The thought occurs that we just fought a ninja while on a pirate ship.
Because, Joe, it's awesome. You beat the shit out of people while using Koshiro jams in the background. What more can you ask? But yeah, it said here that it was supposed to push the Sega System 18 arcade hardware to its limits, so... Interesting, I guess. Well, the screenshots of the game doesn't make it look like too special.
We defeated Bino.
Okay.
Bino is the name of a long-running comic strip series over here in the UK.
And now we're in Alien?
Alien. Well, yeah, at the time Sega did still possess the license for the Alien games. So
first we went on a pirate ship, then we went out to the park, then we went to the pier, and now we're in Alien.
Where enemies actively hide inside the alien eggs.
So that's how Sega released Colonial Marines and Isolation.
Come to think of it,
actually, surprisingly, yes, because that's the reason they still hold the license at this point.
Come to think of it, Sega were the ones who made that trippy as all heck Hulk Sega Genesis game that had that out of nowhere level that has nothing to do with the mythos of Hulk.
Technically Sega didn't have anything to do with the game itself. It was made by Probe Entertainment.
Yeah. It just happened to be a system exclusive, Jova.
Still, though, you can't deny the resemblance, though. Uncanny locations.
And yes, I agree on it, Jova, but only to an extent, because there is a methodology in the H.R. Geiger-esque sculptures that the Alien franchise is known for. What happened in the Incredible Hulk Genesis Mega Drive game is another type of trippiness.
It boils down to the fact that the developers really wanted a variety of levels, so let's just put them in there because video game. Nobody can.
Makes sense.
Also, these sounds.
Okay, and now we're fighting a hornhead.
Yes.
Verectus.
Vehalits, whatever the hell. Brown. Oh, and his name is just... Well, Brown is an actual name, I guess, like Clancy Brown, so... To be
Beat him up and take his wallet!
You mean Vehalit? Does that thing even have pockets?
It's gotta have them somewhere.
Jova, that's what the bad guys would do.
We're supposed to be cops, remember, Jova?
May I remind you that in Pokemon we play as the hero and we take money from everyone we beat?
Yeah,
Well, that's not-
But that's because we beat them.
Yes, find a cute girl, murder her pets, get her phone number, and steal her money.
That may be Jova,
Very
but this is not Pokemon. Fortunately,
Nor an RPG for that matter. Not every enemy just spontaneously drop a sack of gold.
more eggs.
Hey, one of them spontaneously drops a lift key.
Oh,
And
wow.
some chicken,
that
too.
still doesn't explain why there's
And
like
now we're fighting
Wolverine.
Blanka mixed with old Wolverine, it seems.
Well,
Zamza.
the 90s retro remake of Logan is weird.
Adamantium Rage.
Have I ever shown you the Extreme X-Men?
No.
That was
A
that was
phase,
a thing, and oh boy, the outfits for that were
special.
quite interesting. Let me see if I can find it.
Marvel, well, the long story short, nothing really has changed. Marvel always tried to go full. How you doing, fellow kids? With the demographic at the
Oh
time.
boy, the Sega Stadium.
I wonder if Sonic is there.
To give you a good idea, Dwibs, this was the intro cover for it.
Yep, that sure
okay.
is.
When did it come out?
90s.
Oh,
it has all plastered that all over.
So that's where the 2000 movie got its inspiration from.
Do baseball. Do baseball?
Actually,
Baseball.
actually,
That's not an advert. That's just a command. Do
Also,
baseball.
I got a bit of a.
It's like Boo.
Yes.
Actually, I got a bit of a surprise for you. The Extreme X-Men, that actually was made from 2001.
Are you sure, Jova?
Oh, so it was the other way around then.
Because that surely looks like a Rob Liefeld cover.
Okay. Here's the thing, Tio. Remember the rules about the 90s. The 90s began in the 80s and ended in, like, the mid-early 2000s.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
It's like when a decade starts, the stuff from the previous decade doesn't immediately die.
Yeah, Saved
It
by the
takes like
Bell.
a year or two to happen.
I will say, Dweebs, I will say both at the 80s at least had a more abrupt ending to them
They
to make
did,
space
yeah.
for the 90s.
The 90s were a thing that began in the 80s, but they lasted for so long because they were such catchy trends.
Funnily enough, speaking of the 80s, Doctor Who was actually one of those shows that started doing a whole bunch of 80s stuff.
All right, we've
before
reached the
the
baseball
80s, like having
stadium.
synthesized music everywhere, for example.
All right.
So basically, Mr.
X's
X's goons have taken over even the freaking baseball stadiums.
So it's like the Dark Knight Rises.
Well, technically, Dark Knight Rises, that was a football stadium.
It's a stadium.
Hey,
it
maybe,
counts.
maybe this is why Major League Baseball had a few games round here in Britain recently. Their stadiums were being overrun by these guys. So they had to go somewhere else.
I mean, Mr. X used to be a convincing guy considering the little millions of goons at his disposal.
Also, I still think Major League Baseball kind of blew their load a bit early by having like the biggest baseball rivalry in the States be the very first one to be done here in England.
I guess it was their way of
Because I mean, what
trying
else are you going to do after that?
They'll think of something. In desperation, it brings out a lot. Anyway, Tio, as for the Extreme X-Men, it ran from 2001 to 2004, and then came back in 2012 through 2013.
It's a good thing they've never been too much attached to the X-Men then.
Because everyone was just begging for it to come back, weren't they? I mean, that's like... It's like... That'd be like if Coca-Cola brought back like new Coke or something. Oh wait, they did, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are actually two different versions of Streets of Rage 2 restored. One that...
Not everything that's old can be brought back for nostalgia.
Go on, Pedro.
One version that retains the main character names from the American version, and one that goes all the way and restores Skate's name back to Sammy. I decided to keep the Skate's name.
Oh, the Big Ben.
Just for the purpose of being able to make that point. So yeah, and remember these fat guys from the first game? Now they officially have a name, Big Ben.
Yep.
Okay.
Big Refire.
Oh yeah, and this is my brother exploiting a common trick in the Streets of Rage games. There you go. See, if you know what you do.
The ever classic corner grab.
No, not that, Jova. It's the I forgot if it has a proper terminology, but basically it's exploiting the frames of the fast punch to stun lock the enemy.
Stun frame exploit. Basically, whenever you hit a guy, he will get stunned for a few seconds, and if you do it at the right time, he will start the stun animation all over again. So if you manage to get into a good rhythm with that, you can basically drain the enemies out of their HP.
Pretty much. It's just like whenever we did that trick, me and the kids on the playground called that the corner grab.
And the teachers would call it detention if you actually try to do it in the playground.
Well, technically, the corner grab is a different concept where you take advantage of the fact that the enemy is cornered. But yeah.
I know. But us as kids, that's just what we called it.
Donovan and Garam.
Donovan, what are you doing here? Go back to Darkstalkers. Oh wait, that's right. Darkstalkers is pretty much as good as dead outside of crossover.
Well, not at the time of these games.
Oh, and this guy is just called Z. Just the letter Z. And that's it.
Okay.
Huh.
BT. Oh, the BTs from Death Stranding? What? Oh my god, Kojima, you ripped us off. This is 0 out of 10.
Wait, did you?
0 out of 10.
No, guys, don't you see? BT, the British Telecom, our telephone company, have rebelled.
Actually, that makes sense because we've already established that this must be a British stadium because of what he just told us earlier. So maybe that's it.
Yeah, exactly. The people all the phone engineers that work at British Telecom got fed up of their jobs. So they decided to take out their anger in a baseball stadium. Why? I have no idea, but whatever.
Speaking of stadium, looks like we've got quite a crowd. Wait,
and
now
guys,
the Ultimate Warrior.
The Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
And he's called Abadede. Because we can't afford, remember to Warrior trademarked his name, so we can't use it.
Yep.
Yeah, shit.
The power of self must determine the principles of this true city.
And
so die.
And yet, this is more entertaining than his entire stint in WCW
or his comic book.
I'll sum his WCW tenure up real quick. They tried to redo that Hogan Warrior feud from 8 years before, where they had that really good match at WrestleMania. Except it blew chunks.
Oh.
But they...
No, seriously, that match is bloody awful. There's nothing but it's plodding, and now not even the Warriors' shtick is that exciting anymore by that point.
Alright, so
it was 1998, so... Yeah.
Alright, we defeated the Ultimate Warrior. So, tune in next time, everybody. So we can finish the game.
See ya.
All right, we'll see you then.
See ya.